Alright, that's great. Well, it's nice that a couple of you are watching, so I'll try and talk my way through here. What I wanted to try and figure out today was a nice way to rig a hand, kind of like the ones I have up here. Just a really simple, fat, cartoony hand, because I want to be able to have a finger and then have it actually bend and fold just with some deformers, and you can I want there to actually be a crease where the finger bends, like right here, you know? So I can see that working easily from the side, like this, but I'm really curious if I can get it to work from the front, like here, for example. If I have, here, let me get a red color. If I've got the finger straight like this, and then if I actually have it bend and fold like this, you know, like we're into a fist like over here, can I actually pull that off with just one drawing, or is that impossible? I don't know. So I want to try and find that out today. And then I've got this water bear over here, a tardigrade, which I haven't really finished designing yet. I don't think he looks that good, but I really just want to make all these little fat limbs and claws move. I think they're really cute, so if I have time, I'll get to him too. I'm really eager to try that out. So let's see what I can do here. Well, I guess I can just start with this really simple hand that I drew. Alright, well, we'll just start with this. So that can be a finger. I'm still pretty new to rigging, so I'm probably going to make a lot of mistakes, but that's life. I'll learn. Okay, so that's on its own layer. I'll just call it finger. I guess if this works, presumably I could clone this 4 times and have 4 fingers. We'll see how that goes. I'd have to make them slightly different lengths. Okay, so the bottom of the finger is going to be here, so I should start there and go up. Oh, right. I'm forgetting something here. I really, you're supposed to start with the bones straight, and then you can curve them from there. So I want to try and be as correct as I can. There we go. Alright, so yeah, this is a start. We've already got some weird issues going on here, but this is where the fold deformer can come in. It can solve these problems here. This is a really bony hand too. I don't even know if I'd use the bone deformer. I might use curve. That's actually something we should start with. Is this one is going to be bone, and then I'll start another one which is hand. And if any of you have questions, type them in, and I can talk about that or answer some things. I'm happy to do that too. Okay, well, I've increased the size of this. I think this is called the zone of influence, so this is, they're not creasing over quite as much, but I think personally I prefer using the curve deformer, just with the few experiments I've done so far, because there's more control and structure with this kind of with the bone deformer, but it just seems kind of clunky to me. But that's a start, so that can be a side view. I want to try this out though. Do a curve deformer on this one here. All right. Let's see what happens there. Yeah, this is a lot more fun to me, but then you can already see the difference here. You can actually see some bone structure here, if you want to call it that. There's some, it's more rigid, and in some ways that can look better. It just depends on the style you're going for. But here, there's it's just one line. It's one spline curve, just like it shows here. So then I guess the question is, can I move this over here and see if I could just hide this stroke that's appearing in the middle here? If I could overlap that, this could almost be like a foreshortened view in the front. Although I don't know how that would come out if I actually in between it. Because that's what I'm really looking for here, is this might make more sense to people who are watching if I take this and move it up to where I have that sample hand, like right here. Yeah, okay. Now let me get this a little under control here. Okay, so we've got this really fat finger here, and I want to be able to just curve it down in front of itself like this and have it actually retain some anatomy that makes sense. So it almost looks like it could work. I just have to mess with some of the modules that Toon Boom has and see if those can work in my favor or not. So let's try that out. I'm actually not sure if the auto fold or the fold deformer module rather can work with the curve style deformer or not. That might only work for this guy down here with the bone deformers. So we'll see about that. Here, I'll move this guy up too. This hand is getting some really weird fingers, but he'll just have to hold on to that and deal with that for now. Okay. This is going to be so weird for a while, and hopefully it starts looking pretty cool and professional later, but I can't even guarantee that because this is just an experiment and I am learning, so we'll see where it goes from there. Alright, so we've got our, let me dive into the network view for a bit here. Okay, so I'm just going to organize these in a way that makes sense. So if you're new to Toon Boom, what's going on here is I've got my every layer you create in Toon Boom also exists in this network view. So I've got the curve drawing here and the bone drawing here, which is, they're just two different names for the same drawing which I duplicated. So the first finger over here on the left is curve, and the second drawing on the right is the bone drawing. And I've named them these two different names to represent that one of them is rigged using the curve deformer, and one of them is rigged using the bone deformer. And you can see that they accomplish different visuals that way, and that you control them in different ways. And then attached to each of these drawings is the actual deformer. There's the curve here and the bone here. And you can actually dig inside of that and see that it has all sorts of different modules with it. I'm still learning how this works myself, so I can't really be a great teacher for that, but just so this isn't totally confusing for people, that way I can give some help there. I also have a drawing layer here, which is just all these sketches I did outside of the stage before I started streaming, just so I can remember what I'm doing. And there's also a color card, which is just this white fill that goes on forever. If I didn't have that, it would be this neutral gray that Toon Boom starts with, which I don't really like using. I like having white as I work, or if I'm using a dark scene, I like having black. So anyway, what I wanted to do was open up this module library, which are different effects and helpers that you can attach to your nodes in the network view. And they have some here for deformation that might help. And the one I'm looking for here is, let's try autofold. I want to see if that helps. So first, let me try that. So, okay, so right, what autofold does is it removes the creases. If you look at how this is overlapping, it just becomes almost one shape. But if I were to tear this away from this rendering path here, you can see what happens to the finger. It gets those lines back. So I only want to remove the line in the center here. I want to keep the line around the edge. The problem is Toon Boom doesn't know that that's what I want. It doesn't know that I'm trying to make this look like a finger. It's just computing what it can. So I need to help it along and try to get it to understand what I want it to do. So I don't think autofold is what I want, but I might be able to use this. I don't think I'm actually attaching it to the right spot. I might need to go into the curve deformer here and attach fold that way. And it has all these settings, but again, I don't know if I'm actually getting anything out of it. Let's try going in here. Okay, we've got the curve, offset. If I can't get a lot of progress on here and it turns out that I really just need to hit the book some more and go watch more tutorials, I'll just move on to something else for the purposes of the live stream, because it could just be watch Bill watch tutorials for hours, but I don't think that's going to be very entertaining. So I got the fold when I did that La Poutine rig a couple weeks ago. I did use fold and autofold successfully, but only on the bone style rig, like this one over here. So I can try using that again on this setup and see how that goes. So why don't I try that? Because I'm really not sure if I can use fold and autofold on curve or not. So let's go in here. Right. Well, that's weird. It just makes it disappear completely. Well, I don't think we want that then. I probably have it in the wrong spot. Bone articulation. Okay, let's try putting it between... If I remember my tutorials that I've already seen, if you're adding a fold, you want to put it between the bone and the articulation. And let's see if that does it right. Okay, well, that's doing something. So it must be this one here. This is right. This is bone 1, and this should be bone 2. So, oh, there you go. That's getting somewhere. Okay. if I shrink down this circle, it can, well, that's pretty weird, but it can give you a sharper corner, which, depending on how you want the character to look, can be kind of nice. Alright, well, this is just about how I'd probably want to try posing the finger if I'm trying to curl it inwards towards the palm. So I think now I just need to play around with the fold effect and see if I can get it to hide the right lines that I want. There we go. I can zoom in a little bit so maybe people can read what's happening. I thought there'd be more deformation modules here. There's something else I wanted to investigate called the auto patch, but I'm not seeing that here. Wouldn't be filter, wouldn't be that. Bees. That might come in handy at some point, but not right now. I've got the microphone pretty close to my computer tower, so if there's a lot of fan noise and ambient stuff, let me know and I can try to alleviate that. Yeah, this line right here, I really want to get rid of that and have that hide properly. Let's see, this is the offset here. This is bone 1. So, here we go. I think I'm actually getting somewhere now. Articulation 1. So I think to be more detailed about what I want here is bone 2, since as I manipulate this point, you can see that bone 2 is highlighted. So I want that to always be on top of the rest of this drawing, if that's even possible. I already have this here. Okay, so if I disable this, I actually am getting some result already just from that, but it's not really doing what I want. I honestly don't know what these settings do that much, so I'm just fiddling to see what happens. At least something's happening, that's encouraging to me. Orientation. here we go. Okay. Yeah, this is pretty complicated for me. I have to learn a lot more. I think I can actually do what I want, but not so easily, not in one sitting, I don't think. I've got to research more about how exactly fold and autofold are supposed to work. Because I'm not getting what I want out of it. Alright, well, how about I go back to curve deformer for just a little bit, try a few more things, and then I guess I'll try fiddling around with that water bear. Alright. Well, that's interesting. Oh. Okay, well I'm finally getting some controls for the fold module that I put onto this thing. That's something. Hey, there you go. That's actually doing it. That is doing exactly what I wanted to do. Well, sort of. It looks like for this to really work, I'd have to adjust the fold on the fly as I animate the finger. Well, maybe. I'm not sure. Let's try this. I don't really like how I drew the finger. It shouldn't be getting fatter at the tip like that so much, but I think this might actually go somewhere. So I'll put a keyframe there, and then right here, let's try doing something, some kind of animation. I'll probably have to adjust the keyframes quite a bit, but that's okay. Oh, well, this shows you how much experience I have in Toon Boom. I didn't actually have the animate button on the whole time, so I just had to redo that finger pose. I've been using Flash for more than a decade, and I just semi-recently got Toon Boom. I got it about, I guess, almost a year ago. and I've definitely learned a lot about it, but mostly just how it can help with frame-by-frame animation. I haven't done a lot of rigging, but ever since I tried out rigging that La Poutine character from Atomic Cartoons, I had a lot of fun doing that, and I was really impressed with how much animation I got out of it in just a weekend. Okay, well there you go. There is some professional hand and finger animation right there. Yeah, you know what? I'm done. I can just go have lunch and just know that I was successful immediately, right? Okay, so that needs a lot of adjusting. So let's see. This is a little tricky because I can't just have it curve out like this and then come in. It has to fold forward the whole time through 3D space with a 2D drawing. So I guess to start, it would be something like this. It's probably not going to look great at first. And this probably will never look that great. And honestly, I'm never going to show a character slowly curling their finger in over half a second even. It would be very, very quick. So this may not even be worth doing, but I wanted to try it. It might end up being useful. I see in a lot of rigs that I've looked up online that somebody will add a bone or a curved deformer to the hand, but when it, to the arm rather, to the whole body and then to the arm, and then when it comes to the hand, they just have a few hand drawings that they drew beforehand, and they just swap the drawings in when they need them, which seems like a perfectly fine solution. And I may end up just doing that, but I wanted to try this out just to see if it was possible. This might be a case where there's a reason I never see people do this, and that's because it just sucks and will not work. But I am also the kind of person who has to try that and see it for myself before I accept that and proceed to never do it like everyone else does. Alright, well, another problem with this, with using the curved deformer, is there are several joints in a finger, and I only really have the one spline curve going here, so that might be hurting me. But then again, if I have a fully articulated, realistic finger with the right number of joints, and I have to adjust all of those every keyframe, that might just be more work than this is worth in the end. Plus, there's this full deformer, which I'm starting to get the hang of, but it looks like I have to adjust the angle of it as I go, which, yeah, there you go. And I'm not sure that can be keyframed. Let me find out if it can. Oh, it can. Okay. It has its layer right here, and it can accept keyframes, although where spin, yeah, these all have keyframes on them, but I don't see it actually sticking. But let's find out. I'll increase that. Yeah, I don't know if this control here for the I think this is the span. I'll increase this really far here, and then you can see it stays that way. So, and I can't have it that far out for this frame. Well, anyway. That's a decent start for what I wanted to accomplish, at least. So, I don't think I need these last keyframes here. Let me get rid of those. Yeah, I think this would actually work best with stop motion keyframes. So I'm only really using the deformers to pose, and the animation is still technically frame by frame. And yeah, I don't know a lot of the hotkeys yet, so you're going to see me right-clicking and going into menus a lot still. If it's a hotkey that carried over from Flash, I'm fine. But there are a lot of new features in Toon Boom that Flash doesn't have, or that in Toon Boom that Flash didn't have, right? I said that right. Anyway. Okay, so... that's weird. Oh, that's why. This is looking pretty good. This is what I'd expect. There's a couple of glitches with the fold module that I'd have to correct, but it's actually kind of working. So yeah, I could see all 4 fingers and the thumb with a setup kind of like this maybe actually working for me. And then where it gets a little more interesting is if I have it set up like that, I can pose an open palm hand like this into a fist, like on the right here, and then the next step is just by adjusting the z-index of each finger and the palm and the thumb, can I make the hand turn around like this? So suddenly I have a side view or a top of the hand view with the thumb behind everything instead of in front. So I don't know if I'm going to go through all of that right now. I could certainly try. I'd have to... I guess the way I'd set that up with layers is I'd have the thumb, each finger, and then a palm layer. And I could pretty easily go from this first drawing into a closed fist like that. But then I want to see if I can actually rotate them all so they turn into this side view. And then even after that, if they could continue rotating and go to this. So, yeah, that would get pretty interesting. I guess in that case, this finger would already be in front of these 3, and this thumb in front of everything else. So to rotate from here into this view, I wouldn't actually need to adjust the z-index at all. But if going the other direction where you see the pinky first and the thumb is far away, that's where the z-index would have, that's where that would have to happen. Alright, well, I guess I could keep going with that. Yeah. Sure, let's try it. Let's try and get a nicely set up finger, or rather a whole hand, and see where that goes. So the first thing I'd like to do is see if I can do that or not. Go into setup mode. Alright, they're down here. I just wanted to change the way this finger looks just a little bit. Have it more like that one there, where it's a little bit more tapered at the top. And maybe thicken up the line work. I usually like to work with no lines at all. So I would just be depending on gradients actually, so I may just try that. That actually sounds pretty good. So let me get rid of the line work here. Oh, there's a lot of it. There. That's easy. Alright. Let's see if I can save this really, really ugly finger. Let's see. Smooth that in here. This is something nice that Toon Boom can do. It can get rid of a lot of the vector points that are on your finger, or your drawing. I mean, in my case, it's a finger, but so, oh man, there's still so many of them. That's probably fine. I could probably get rid of more, but I think this is good. Okay, so that is a finger. I'd like to try to do is something I've been doing a lot lately is playing around with how the pencil tool handles gradients. I think this is really cool. So if you have a gradient color that you've created, like I have here, if you draw with the brush, it will just fill with the gradient exactly like you'd expect. So if I draw a squiggle line like this, it treats it as one flat shape, and the gradient starts on one end of the whole drawing and then ends at the other half of it, so the other side of it. So that's fine. That's exactly what Flash has done for years. But if you use the pencil tool, look what happens. So I draw the same squiggle, and it actually follows the stroke. And I've really been using that a lot in everything I've done in Toon Boom lately. I did it in that Sonic and Tails test where I colored them all to have this gradient effect. In fact, I can just open that right now. Here you go. You guys get a little preview of what else I've been working on. Let's see. This might take a little bit to load in. Yeah, okay. So, if I go all the way over here, these guys have tons of that same gradient pencil concept set up on them. They actually have 3 different layers going on, 3 different sub-layers. So if I go to Sonic's drawing here, I go to his properties. Okay, so there's the line art layer here. There's also a shadow layer underneath his head. So we start with the line art. There's also the color layer, which just has mostly flats with a little bit of really dark shading, and then where it really gets crazy is the color layer, where I've added all these gradients. I mean, these are all different brush strokes, or not brush strokes, pencil strokes that I've made and edited very specifically to follow the contours of his body and make him look like his box art from the Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. And Tails has the same thing going on. So I don't think I'm ever going to work to this much detail again, because it took me literally weeks to make all of these frames. So it was a fun experiment, but I'm not gonna do that again. And then there's something else that I'm about to release that also uses that technique, but to a much more realistic extent. Realistic as in it was only a few items that do that, and it was actually much more efficient to make. But anyway, I think it's perfectly fine to just use that on a finger. So let's see if I can just put it in here and just, let's see, yeah, that should be fine. So put that all the way down here, and then I can use the pencil editor to increase this out. The pencil editor is nice because you can go into a pencil stroke you've made and change the thickness after the fact, which can really be nice. I think that's what makes what made that Sonic and Tails experiment possible, was the ability to do this, and it even has its own curve controls here, so you can taper it near the ends, which is usually really important to do, and then you can flex it out from there. So something like that might work. I'm probably going to incorporate just simple gradient effects like this in probably everything I do for a while, because I'm really into what this can accomplish. I don't want to overuse them because I don't think that'll look very good, but it just seems really powerful. I use this even on the feathers of that rooster in that arthropod rooster bit that I made a few months ago. That was my first time discovering that this was possible, so I've been practicing with this for a while. Okay, it gets kind of funny at the end there, so hold on. I guess this should taper down even more. You can make it go to almost nothing. Alright. Since this is not a transparent gradient, it's actually okay if it overlaps a little bit, but yeah, that could work. I could even go so far as to make a highlight. This might end up looking pretty cheap, but for the purposes of this experiment, this is step 2 of this experiment, I think it's okay. It's okay if it looks cheap. Plus, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time making this look perfect. I really just want to try it, see if I can get it to look cool, or work cool, and then I can make it look cool afterwards. I like that in Toon Boom, as opposed to something like Adobe Illustrator, if I want to add a new vector anchor point, I can just hold Control and click on the line and I can add one, and if I want to get rid of it, I can just delete it, and there are no disastrous results. I think that's a nice touch. It's pretty quick to work with. Alright, anyway, here's a weird gradient finger. It's really not that pretty, but I want to see how this reacts to all this up here. So, oh yeah, this was actually... Was I editing this the whole time? Oh yeah, it was. Well, look at that. I didn't think it would take all that, but... Whoa, that's way different than what I had before. Alright, well that's interesting. Let's see if I can adjust the fold to work with this new setup I have. This is why it's not so good to suddenly change the drawing completely like I did after you've rigged and animated something. They make it possible, but I don't know if it's really recommended. Oh, there we go. That's something. Yeah, now that the finger is actually tapered at the end like that, it really changes how I'd want to animate this. Alright, well, I guess we just have to do it again then. So, to start... Yeah, it'll be... Oh, that's weird. It's not really lining up with the tip of the finger, probably because I changed the drawing so much, so... Let me go back into here. Yeah, okay. I gotta... Can I fix this? Put that over there? Yeah, well, let's see how that goes. Okay, that's better. Anyway, this is... I'm curious if it's easier to set this whole thing up with a traditional cartoon drawing where you have a fill and then a darker stroke around it, or can I do it with this lineless setup where I'm using some gradients, or even just a layer of cell shading where I just have a dark color here, because typically I just do that. The whole gradient obsession is only from playing around in Toon Boom. Alright. So this follows the whole curve here. I can see how it might be better to have one extra anchor point maybe in the middle here. Yeah, this is going to end up looking kind of weird and soupy if I don't have that much structure to it. Yeah, this looks crazy right here. I don't know what to do. There, something like that. Yeah, this gets chopped up pretty badly. But then if I try something like this, it almost works. It looks like it's easier to accomplish this if I skip the whole fancy gradient, no line work style and stick to something basic. Alright, well that's getting sort of closer to what I want, but, well, really I just want, I mean, if I were to draw over this with a new drawing layer, just to show, Hold on. Really, I just want something like this. Although, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't think this would actually work with the gradients because, yes, I would want this, but then I'd also want to go in and make sure that this tapers down correctly and all that. So, yeah, this may not actually work well with the gradient style that I was talking about, which is too bad. I mean, I want to see how far I can take that without it looking ridiculous, but I may have actually reached that point already. Alright, well, if that's the case, I can go back to this once again, and let's see, just get rid of those, and then add, I guess I'll just add a pencil stroke. Probably not that big though. Let's put it down to 5. That might be fine. Okay, now we're back to fill and line work. Alright. Oh yeah, I can get rid of that. Okay. It's great that this can actually do what I was trying to get it to do earlier, where it hides this inner line here. Just have to be careful how I use it. That is a really weird looking finger. Yeah. Well, again, this may not be worth it, but I definitely had to try. But I don't know. I think it would be better to just draw my hands. I definitely need more practice drawing hands, so probably shouldn't be trying to avoid it like this. Alright, well, maybe not for this kind of foreshortened view. I bet this could work fine for a side view of a hand, because you don't have to worry about those overlapping lines at all, except for maybe the thumb. Alright. Well, I guess it's time to switch gears then, and you know what, I may try this again later on when I'm a little more experienced with how the fold deformer works, and just how the rigging deformers in general work. But for now, nah. Alright. So, with this guy, with the Tardigrade, I've really been inspired by watching the 3D models of them move around on Cosmos, so I wanted to try my own take on that. So, let's see. What I wanted to do here, let me go back to this drawing layer. Yeah, alright. So, I want to focus on how they swim around and move. So they've got these eight legs, and they seem to just kind of dog paddle around, where this arm, you know, maybe goes forward like this with the little claws, and then they go back that way. And I really think they're cute, and I want to focus on making them look fat and have lots of wrinkles and rimples, kind of like a Shar-Pei or something similar like that. So I definitely want to focus on when they fold in their arm, it would be great if I actually got a lot of folds and deformation as that happens. So let's see if it's like folded in like this. You know, there's a lot of creases like here, and they have their claws like that. But then if they extend their arm, they lose a lot of that, and it stretches out more. So that would be great if that's possible. So that's something that I want to accomplish with this. Hey, Mr. Chambers. Yeah, it is pretty complicated, but it just depends on how you use it. I mean, there are some people that make really crazy rigs for 2D characters that do even crazier stuff than what I was just trying here with the fingers. But then there are other people that don't use the rigging tools at all. Like John K. from Ren and Stimpy, he uses a simpler version of Toon Boom. He doesn't use Harmony. I think he just uses Animate. And he just likes it because it's got great support for frame-by-frame animation. It does some fun things there. I really like that when you... here, I can actually demonstrate this right now. Here, let me hide all this stuff. So we've got... Let's say we have a drawing here. And I'll just say it's some kind of weird, sloppy Mickey Mouse thing. Okay. And... let's do a different drawing right here, which is just a box. Alright. So, what I thought was really cool is, let's say I have this Mickey Mouse shape and, I don't know, get rid of these. So I copy the frame. And specifically, if I copy the frame, not the drawing inside the frame, but the whole frame, and if I paste it here, so they're separated by this other drawing I made, this cube. So if I go into this Mickey Mouse thing and I, you know, change it in some way, like, you know, put this brown here and add another circle here, whatever, you know, some spiky things, that changes for every instance of it. So even this drawing over here, it also updated with the work that I did. And I love that. It saves me from the equivalent workflow of that in Flash is if you turned every drawing you've made into a symbol or a movie clip. So you then go into the symbol or movie clip, update it, and then it changes all the instances of that in your Flash timeline. So it's cool. I like that. And then if you don't want that to happen, if you just want to copy the drawing into a new frame over here and, you know, let's say I erase this big chunk, he got a big chunk taken out of his ear and he's bleeding all over the place now, that's its own drawing now. These are, they remain intact, and that's because instead of copying the frame, I don't even know, I actually use the hotkey for this, yeah, Control C. If you copy the cell and then paste it, that links them all together. Whenever I want to this, and it only updates there. So the differences between copying and the two different kinds of copying a drawing or copying a cell, that has really come in handy. So, oh, it's great that there's some new people watching. That's awesome. Okay, so what I was going to try to do next is trying to rig this water bear, but again, I don't really like how he looks, but I just wanted to try it out. So let's see, I guess what I'll do is bring him over here. I have a page or two of sketches I've been doing of these off of documentaries and photos I've found, but I haven't really gotten to a fun stylized design of them that I like yet, but I definitely looking forward to having that though. So let's see, I can do onion skin here. How about I just focus on one hand for now, or one arm rather for now. So okay, so I really want them to have this kind of fat wrist fold here instead of just a straight arm. And then let's see, there's this little actually, let's keep that there, and then so this is going to be arm. Eventually he's going to have 8 arms, which I'm actually curious if I can just rig one arm, including the tiny claws that he's got, and then just clone that 7 other times. So that's something else I'm going to have to look into eventually. I might not do that during the live stream because that probably requires some investigation and looking up tutorials, but that's on my mind for if it's possible to do. And this might be overkill, but I was thinking that they have 4 claws on each arm, or each hand usually, and I was wondering if I should have each of those be separate drawings and separate layers, so then I could rotate each of them as they swim around. So I'll just call this claw. I usually do a good job of naming all my colors. Oh, that's something else that's new for Toon Boom. I'm just going to throw in all these little quick tips and look how cool Toon Boom is moments, since I don't think a lot of people use it. But I have this layer here named claw, so I'm going to scribble with it here. Actually, here's a practical way to show it. So on my claw 1 layer, I'm going to draw the first claw, just a straight black color. On my second layer, draw the next claw. Even these, I'm wondering if I could just draw one and clone it, but that's okay. I don't want them to be too graphically simplified like that. And then here's a 4th claw, which, okay, anyway. So I've got these 4. Let's say I wanted to change the color. Well, you just double click on the color swatch and then it changes everywhere you ever used that color in the history of the entire project. The color gets updated immediately. Even if you make it a gradient, it updates to a gradient. You'd have to go in and adjust the gradient to get it to be what you want, but it at least does that, and I think that's really cool. Flash doesn't do anything like that, so I'm really impressed with that. Anyway, I've got these 4. That's great. Let's see. I'm just trying to organize my layers a little bit better before I get into doing a test rig for this arm. Alright. I think it would be better if this last claw were behind. Maybe the 3rd claw too. Nah. Just have it like that. Okay. Okay. Alright, one more thing I want to do before starting on this. Okay. Okay, I just wanted to fade out that sketch of his. And now I can start. So it's going to be very similar to the finger test that I did, but I will throw in a little bit of something I actually know how to do, where I can link these 4 claws to the pivot joint of the rig I put into the arm, so when I move the arm around, the 4 claws can follow. Oh, you want me to zoom out a little bit and see the layers. Huh. Oh, you're right, you're not actually seeing the layers. I'm not sure if I can do that or not. I'm using Open Broadcaster and don't know. Well, let me just try this out. Hold on. I don't know if this will be any better or not. No, we'll see. Did that do anything? Well, I don't know. I guess I can just pull up the layer panel a little bit. That might help you. I don't need a lot of room to work right now. I'm working on something pretty small, so let's see if that did anything. I'll just keep going for a little bit, and I'll keep an eye on the. I have the stream open on a different computer, but I think it's a couple minutes behind. So I'm just gonna keep going, and hopefully it's better for you. Sorry about that, though. I want to try and make these informative. So any way I can help make them more informative, please tell me. Anyway, here's the arm layer, so let's try rigging it. And since he's so squishy and cartoony, and they don't even have bones, they're just a little micro animal thing, I think using the curve deformer is the best way to go. So let's see if I'm right about that. Alright. Well, this typically when I rig a simple limb, this offset point at the beginning, I usually don't really adjust that much, which is good because if I do adjust it a lot, you can see it gets very distorted, and we don't want that. Typically what I do is just move this around and then curve it like this. This is what I love about this thing. You know, you can move the point here and then move these up, and then you can move this down and then adjust the points like this. This is getting a little funny, but there you go. You know, just there and curve it this way. So I really love playing around with the curve deformer. But anyway, I wasn't quite done setting them up though. I want the claws to follow this point here. So I've done that a couple times in the past. Let's see if I can remember how to do it. There, okay. There's this handy button right here called copy resting position to current, and that will take the original pose that I set the set the drawing up with the deformer and reset it to that resting position. Well, it usually does that. I'm still trying to figure out the quirks of that, but anyway, here you go. So if I distort this in some weird way, and then I want to go back to how I originally had it, that button does that for me. Okay, so let's go back into the network view for a moment here so I can show you guys something cool. Okay, all I did there was use a command to spread out all of my layers in this network view so I can see what's going on. So what I just did was add this deformation module to my arm drawing, and then you can see I've got the 4 claws right here, and I want them to benefit from part of this as well. So let's see if I remember how to do that. I need to open up the module library and go to, let's see, there's a specific module I'm looking for here. I think it's, let's see, oh, here it is. It was create kinematic output. So I hit that button, it adds a second kinematic node to here, and that's, I can go over what that means, but I'll just give you the quick version of it. So you'll notice that in this network view there are blue lines and there are green lines, and so the blue line represents visual data, so a drawing mostly, and green represents movement data, just positions, animation, kinematic movement. I think that their technical term for it is a kinematic line. Well, I really have to learn more about it. I'm a long way away from being a Toon Boom teacher, but I'll try. But anyway, what I've done here is I've created a secondary kinematic output. The primary one is going from the bone deformation that I've created into the arm drawing. So that's what's driving this. So here, let me zoom up here. It's getting a little crowded here, but I'll manage. So there's the arm drawing down here, and then right above that, attached to it, is the deformation that I created for it, and that's what this is here with the curve deformer. And so the curve deformer creates this movement and this distortion, and that is applied via this connection here to the arm drawing. That's basically how it's working. So what I want to do is also create, take the position data from this moving around and apply it to these four claws. I think actually the first thing I should do is reset the pivot points of these. Let's see if I did that correctly or not. Whoa, no I didn't. Hold on. Is that right? Yeah, there you go. I gotta set the pivot points of these to where they would actually be. So, that's good. I think I can also do it this way. Yeah, that works. Pivots. There we go. Okay. So as the claws have the right pivot point, instead of being in the center of the drawing, they're actually where they start in the hand. So that's great. Now I can try and set this up. So I'm going to take the extra kinematic output and drag connections to each claw. So if I did that right, now when I rotate this, the claws can follow. And they even rotate, you know, as I rotate the hand. It's pretty cool. I really like what can be accomplished with this. But then, you know, separate from that, I can actually go into each claw and rotate them. This will work for a regular bear too, of course. It doesn't have to be a water bear. So eventually what I'd like to try and accomplish is what I was sketching out here earlier, where if he's got his hand or his arm scrunched up like this, flexed and contorted in some way, I want there to be more wrinkles here, and so it can be look like, so all the fat in his arm is really compressing, and then opposite that, when he reaches his arm out like this to, you know, swipe at something or to swim, I want it to look stretched out and the opposite of what it was when it was scrunched. So I think I can accomplish that by using drawing substitutions, but I don't know a lot about that yet. I'm still looking into how that works. Oh, look at that. I accidentally animated those. Well, that's fine. Okay, well, let's see. I'm not sure what else I can accomplish on this live stream without having to spend time looking it up. So, but yeah, eventually what I want to do with this little guy is have that extra deformation possible where it compresses and gets really wrinkly, and also I want to see if it's possible to have this one arm rig that I've finished, and then can I clone that 7 other times and make his other limbs? I would probably have to change how some of these are working, at least with the very last limb, the back pair. I'd probably flip the claws around, but yeah, I'm curious if that's possible, because if that is, this could end up being a pretty efficiently made rig, I think. So I'll have to see how that works. I think maybe the next time I live stream, it'll be when I have this rig finished and I'm actually starting to animate him doing something specific, something funny. I was thinking of, you know, having a couple of them on screen and they're just kind of swimming around and writhing around to Nutcracker music or something, some kind of classical ballet. It just might be cute. So that, I don't know when I'll be done with that. Maybe in a couple of weeks. So let's see. Unless you guys have any other questions, I'll probably just stop for now and do some of the research I've been talking about, and then if I can live stream again soon, I will. I want to try doing it more. I think it's pretty fun. I'll just try animating his hand a little bit for now, just to kind of wrap things up. I'll also look into making sure that my entire computer screen can be visible, because it would be nice to actually see the layers. Most of the important stuff is happening in the network view, I think, but it's still important to see the layers too. Alright, so let's see what I can accomplish here. We can do like a little dog paddle or something here. I'll just block out that animation right now. Something that can easily happen with curved deformers is you can really lose the mass that you have with your drawing, and by that I mean it's easy to over time accidentally make your arm this long when you didn't really mean to, and then you go back and you think, oh crap, it's actually supposed to be really short. And so you really have to keep that under control. It's easy for this to get out of hand. Very, very easy. That's weird. That's off to a pretty good start. I'll try rotating the claws a little bit too. I think a lot of the fun motion is going to come from how these things work. This could already use a full deformer right here. Same principle as the finger. Well, it's something. It's pretty rough, but it's also going by kind of fast, I think. Ah, I see. You gotta get these keyframes back here. I'm just seeing what he looks like with a body, or part of one, rather. Yeah, this might benefit from if I can get some cool textures painted onto him. So I could even paint him up in Photoshop or Manga Studio first, and then bring in the layers that way. He doesn't have to be a vector object. Hey, you know, while I'm messing around with stuff, why don't I try my favorite thing in the world and add some gradients to him? Just one. Nothing too crazy. I'm not crazy. Let's see. Make it pretty big. That's too big. Oh, this should actually get pretty interesting. You can go into color art. So what I just did there was a little bit of what I hinted at in that Sonic scene, where the color layer, the color fill is actually on this sub-layer called color art, and then line art contains the gradient strokes and also the, I guess you just call them traditional strokes, the dark outline strokes. Anyway, I just wanted to see what happened if I added in a little of this. My weird obsessive trademark for now. I think if done right it can actually look kind of nice, but I tend to get carried away with things like that, so I have to watch myself. Anyway, how does that respond to this? Yeah, not bad. Not too bad. Okay, well, I'm wondering now if it will blend into a gradient down here. Here, I'll hide that for a moment. This actually make this really big. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. I'll just make it small. I'd have to hand paint this to get the shadows really nice. They seem to have a lot of really deep folds in them where they get tons of shadows, and if you look up microscopic images, photographs of them, or scanning electron microscopic photography of water bears, they look really cool. Some of them look like these crumpled up paper bags, and they have all sorts of folds and cuts in them, and it looks pretty interesting. I'd love to get that effect on whatever I end up with as final art. There is actual footage of them swimming around in tiny petri dishes, and it's real footage of an actual one of these animals in real life. It's not a computer simulation. So I've only looked at that a little bit. I want to study it more to really get how they move. They move pretty fast too. I mean, I was expecting them to be sluggish because they move kind of slow in the Cosmos show, and plus they're called they're called water bears usually instead of tardigrades. So they even tardigrade, I believe that's Latin for slow walker or slow stepper, but for being called that or a water bear, they move pretty fast. So I'll just have to keep that in mind. Anyway, this second half was pretty successful. At least with the first part of it. There's those couple of other experiments that I pointed out. So there may be a part 2 of this, or I may just show off how I'm animating him when his rig is finished. We'll see. But for now, I'll stop this. But it's great that a few of you showed up. I'll try and have things a little more organized and explain myself a little bit better next time. But it's great that a few people actually watch. So thanks. I'll try and have something else to show, or have another live stream maybe in 2 weeks. I'll be out of town next weekend, but the one after that I think should be open for some fun stuff. So hope to see you all then.